On this video I will make a Foureyes bed. This is my bedroom, and this will be probably a 5-part series where I will remake everything you see here. The bed, the cabinets, everything. On this video you will see again some stupid mistakes by myself. It's not long enough. So, options. Before we get to the mistakes I did and showing how I fixed them, let's start with the basics. So, cutting the pieces in part, milling them up, the usual stuff that happens with every single woodworking project. I am using Foureyes plans for this. Main reason is I've been using their plans before and I simply love how detailed they are, so I will not explain all the tips and tricks they show on the video, but I will go through how I built this bed. And as mentioned, this will be most likely a 5-part series. Then next I will build the nightstands, and then I will be building cabinets and probably doing something rather special on the wall as well. But those are different videos than this one. Now, when you think about a bed and the frame for it, it can be super simple because at the end of the day it's nothing more than a box with feet. And this bed here is not an exception to that one. Yes, the legs require a bit more skills, maybe with a router, but the instructions by Foureyes make it actually pretty easy. So in case you're interested in building something for yourself, maybe you're not that skilled yet, building a bed might be a good option, because actually I think the first thing I ever built 3 years ago was the bed I am now replacing. More on that later on this video. So, like with all builds, there's always issues, problems, mistakes. The first one here is I didn't buy enough material in correct length. So I have my sideboards here, then I have 2 of the boards that go to the end of the bed. I need 1 more, and I don't have material that's long enough. So I will show how I will fix it. It's not perfect, but this bed is for myself, so I think it will be good. But let's take a look on how I will fix it. So here's the case. The 2 pieces I cut from these sideboards I will use, but it needs to be wider. Then I have this one board here, but the problem is it's not long enough. So, options: I can drive 3 hours to get more wood. I won't. So I found a piece that fits this quite nicely. The grain match, it's not perfect, but it's actually fairly good. The only problem is this seam here, or the glue line. And obviously this joint will not be very strong, but I think in this case it should be fine. But now the way I'm trying to minimize the gap that's visible here, so I'm planning to cut these in 45-degree angle and then do the joint, which I hope will work. We'll see. The panel I am making now is the blue one you see on the plans. And here I am trying to fix the mistake I did by not buying enough lumber in correct length. So as mentioned, I cut these in 45-degree angle with the hope that when I glue them together, the seam will be not invisible but better than it would be without doing this 45-degree cut. The joint itself would be quite weak if it was only these two boards, but as I will be making this as a wider panel, they will get more board attached to them on the side, and in that case I believe that this will be fairly strong board, and it actually doesn't hold any structural strength in the bed frame itself, so it should be fine. I've been sleeping on this bed already like 2 or 3 weeks. I've been actually pretty lazy with this voiceover and editing the video, but it's been working very well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, making a bed is quite simple, and up until now I've really done nothing apart from making some panels, and but now I'm starting to work with the template for the leg. So as part of the plans by Foureyes, they give you this PDF file that you can print and create the template with it, which makes this a lot easier. I think if you live in US you can order the actual MDF template from them. I live in Finland, so I will build my own. With the template done, I'm using this Sharpie here to mark roughly the lines on the piece of ash that I will be using for the bed legs. Now there's 2 areas with these legs that are super important to get cut very precisely. Luckily the plans gave good instructions on how to build a jig that can be used to make sure that the line is perfect, because this is the line that will be defining basically if the bed will be a square once everything is assembled. Then for the parts that are for aesthetics only, I'm using bandsaw to cut majority of the material out, and then I will be using the template with a router to get rest of it off. And that's the reason why I really like templates, because then it's very easy to copy the same form into another piece and another depending how many you need. Then I put some double-sided tape on the template, and then very carefully I want to place it precisely to the correct position on the piece of ash that will become the first leg for the bed. Obviously I will be making 2 of these different styles of legs, which is why I have 2 different templates, but the process is the same on creating all 4. Foreshadowing one mistake I will be doing soon, but the reason I'm doing this smaller cut first instead of doing everything at the router table is to avoid mistakes, which didn't really work out, as you will see fairly soon. Generic rule is do not take too much material off with one pass. But the mistake I now make with the router table, I think, is that the flush trim bit I'm using is too small, and I have too much material to take off when you compare to the size of the bit, and you see I didn't control it perfectly, and you see that I kind of lifted it up, so there will be a thing to fix, but that's fine. Anyway, I changed to a bigger bit, which I felt was easier to control, and nothing bad happened after it. But then I needed to fix the mistake I did for the first piece, which turned out to be very, very easy to fix. So as these parts are only for aesthetics, it doesn't really matter if I sand more out from them than what the template was that I originally created. So that was the fix I decided to apply here. So I joined these legs together, and then I just sanded as long as I needed to get the mistake that I did with the router. So Sometimes simplicity wins, and in this case it only took like few minutes to fix the mistake and no one will ever see it because I sanded it away. With that, it's time to start assembling things. The first thing was decision how I will do the joints. I think glue alone would have been fine, but the reason I decided to use dominoes is just to make things easier for myself, because when I glue these I need to glue these two boards at the same time and it's quite long, so it will be difficult anyway. The dominoes will help, hopefully, to keep things in place before I get everything into clamps. Few things to be done before finally gluing them together. First one is I wanted to do a dry fit for both ends of the bed, making sure that everything fits nicely together. And the other thing which I will do after the dry fitting is done, to add some shape with the router, because it will be easier now to shape the legs than trying to run the router on the legs after everything has been glued up. Sometimes I do things in smart way, very often I don't. Luckily in this case I kind of understood that it makes sense to do this part before gluing everything up. For making the legs look a bit more interesting, of course, you're free to do whatever you want. I decided to go with the style that's fairly close to the style that Foureyes used in the plans as well. So I took out my biggest roundover piece for parts of the legs and then I used a smaller one for the rest. I think it keeps things, I don't know, looking a bit more dynamic and nice when not all the sides and corners are done with the same profile. Then it was time to glue them up. I started with the easier one, no issues with it. Then came time for the more complex one.
Alrighty, time for the more difficult glue up. I had to convert pretty much all my pipes into longer ones. Decided that 5 will do. I will put 2 here, 3 here. Yeah. Let's see, it would be easier if I had someone to help with me, but I think I can pull it off. Wish me luck.
It's not the most complex glue up I've done, but still there's 2 boards, there's 2 different legs. The length is long, and then the legs are also not straight with each other, so I needed to create these clamp pieces. So I was just a bit afraid that things will, for any reason, start behaving badly, because there's roughly 10 minutes only to go once you've applied the glue, so it's always a rush against time, but in this case it went through fine. I guess doing the dry fitting before really helped, so I was more afraid than what the reality actually was. The board was never completely to the size with the leg, and that was on purpose, because the idea from the start was that once things have dried up, I can just use my sander to make sure that everything is nice and flush. Then I needed to remove some of the squeeze out glue, and I used my chisel, I used sandpaper, I used multi-tool in various places. Just a thing that needs to be done. Now, my workshop is some drive away from my house, and I don't have a big enough car that I could transport a fully assembled bed. So the way I'm now building this is that I will make this in a way that I can assemble this bed at my house, and for that I needed to route in the hooks that will be used for connecting the side panels to the end boards of the bed. And making this was interesting to say the least. It was a bit tricky. I was convinced that I will mess things up. Surprisingly, I didn't. As you have seen on this video as well, I make mistakes. I was 100% sure that I will mess things up here. But for some reason I didn't, which made me pretty happy. Thanks to Foureyes and the plans, they did have this section covered in case you want to build the bed in this way that it can be easily assembled at the site. So that really helped, but still, as I've never done anything like this, I had my concerns. But with that done, the only thing left before applying the finish and doing the final sanding in different order obviously is to add the slats that will be at the bottom of the bed, basically supporting the mattress that I will be obviously putting on it. And I went the simple and easy route, just added glue. It will be way stronger than I will ever need. The way they did it in the Foureyes course for this bed, I think was way over engineered. But I mean, yeah, there is the point on if you can overdo something you should. In my case I didn't. But with that, it's complete. Of course, final sanding, but then I could apply the finish, and then it was time to take this thing to my house, disassemble the old bed and assemble this one and wait for the first night with it. So I hope you liked the video. As I mentioned, there will be additional videos. The next one I will build the nightstands for this. Then I will redo the cabinets. I will try wood bending probably for the first time ever. And then I will be building kind of an artsy piece on the wall that you see me pointing at the end of this clip. But now I will remain silent for the rest of the video and show you how it looked like when it was completely assembled. Thank you.